This is Mick Strawn. You're watching the Foti Squared Foti Squared podcast. Woohoo! Woo!
You've worked on a couple of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Candyman.
Okay, I'll tell you what I did in Candyman.
What'd you do on Candyman?
Well, Candyman was easy. I got called in. I got called on Candyman. I got called into an office on a stage in LA.
Stage?
Like what?
A sound
Yeah,
stage?
like a sound stage. The old S&A stages, a little tiny stage. And I mean tiny. I think they had 4 stages on a little piece of property, right?
Okay.
But they also had offices, and I went in for an interview in an office.
I can prove it.
Huh.
I can call him.
And by that time, I had sort of started to kind of fix shows, come in for brief periods and kind of just fix problems. And
You were the fixer on the horror movies.
I was fixing for a long time. I literally, everything that I did from 2000 to 2013, I think was covered by so many DNAs that it never shows up anymore.
Really?
Yeah, only the really worst ones that I did ever showed up, But other things I rearranged a lot. Anyway, that's a whole other thing, and I can't talk about it anyway. So I show up, and the producer's like, well, here's the thing. We're at a point to where we could use a boost in the art department. And I go, well, you're shooting here, aren't you? He goes, yeah, we're shooting here. Well, isn't a lot of your work done? He goes, yeah, but you know what? We really need somebody to kind of help us over the line. He was being really amsy-pamsy. I mean, to put it accurately, amsy-pamsy. And I was like, well, let's sure. And I gave him a day rate, and he said fine. And he says, and we'll see you tomorrow, all right? And I start to go out, but as I'm leaving, I go, this is a fishy thing. I'm gonna stop in on one of the stages and just check out what's going on.
What I'm getting myself.
What am I getting myself into? Because obviously nobody wants somebody just around just cuz, right?
Yeah.
And so I go into the stage, right? And here's the thing. In the sunshine, you will go onto a stage and there's always a period of adjustment because your eyes have to, bright sun. And so I do the typical walk in about 3 steps and I just stand there and just kind of let my eyes adjust. And the first thing I see as my eyes are adjusting is that there's a back of a big flat right here. And this guy in jodhpurs, think what a jodhpur is. What's a jodhpur? It's a pair of pants, which DPs have worn on and off, especially British DPs, since 1910 or something, right? And this guy in jodhpurs is just by itself, it just screams pretension, right? And he screams around the corner, and he's hustling. He's older guy, hustling. By the way, his name was Tony Richmond. You should look him up.
My name is Anthony Richmond. I'm a member of the ASC and the BSc. I'm a director of photography.
So he goes immediately over to the craft service table, which is over here to my left. And I was like, okay. And he grabs the full pot of coffee off of the, I had a whole bunch of coffee. Jugs. He grabs coffee and he goes running back around the corner. And I go, well, I'm gonna follow that. So I sneak back around the corner, and as I come around the corner of this set, it's lit, and everybody that was on the stage is behind the camera, looking further around this way, and I was like, huh. well, you just don't see that. It didn't look like people were working. It looked like they were watching something. So I come all the way around the corner, and I got to see the DP, who was the guy with the choppers, right, Tony Richmond, and the production designer, who was an older bitch, and I mean that. I got to know her well enough so that I can say that.
Okay.
And they both had coffee, and they were trying to splash each other with cups out of the machine, hot coffee, right? Which, by the way, if you need a weapon, and it's gonna be coffee, don't try and throw it out of one of those things.
Okay.
Because what it does is it rolls as soon as
because of the scene. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It rolls right back in. And the thing is, basically what they were doing is they were going out there and splashing themselves with and I just went, huh. And so the whole crew's watching this. This was entertainment for the crew, right? I'm like, huh. Well, I'm gonna go back to talk to the producer again. So I go back out, and I knock on the door, and I get in, and I talk to his secretary. He says, "Oh, well, he's busy." And I go, "Yeah, right." And I go right to the door. I open up the door. I went back in, I sat down, and he looks at me and he goes, "Ugh." You went to the set, didn't you? Yeah, I did. Okay, fucking tell me what that was all about. And he goes, God, he says, production designer and the DP hate each other. And both of them were like A-list, you know, A-list. And old school, I might add, A-list. You know, you watch that film and you notice it has a very 70s look to it.
Yes, it does.
Do I know you?
No. But you doubted me.
The
man who fell to earth.
man who fell to earth.
Right, okay, which is a big, you know, kind of like artsy-fartsy science fiction film, but it had David Bowie in it. You know, it was a big deal. But he was the DP on that, and it had a very 70s look, and they couldn't do anything with either one of them because they were so contractually interwoven with the director and everything in there. And so I go, so let me get this right. Let me get this straight. What you told me is you want me to run the art department, but what you really need is you need somebody to stand in between.
You need a referee.
You need a referee, right? And the great thing was she was just a bitch, and he was like on a long string of rehab.
Oh.
He had just gotten out of rehab again.
So this motherfucker was so tight.
Both of them were just, I cannot tell you which one was worse because it was just my job to just get in between them. And I had a fucking great time doing it. I mean, I just sat there and joked with everybody. And then when the one would come, and then she would show up like 5 times a day and try and kill him. Or he would get pissed off and he would go looking for her. And I would literally get in between them because I had nothing to lose. I could just insult them. What I did was basically I made them just yell at me. You know,
getting paid to yell.
I was getting paid, but when I went back into the office, I mean, you know, when I went back into the office and the producer had the meltdown, right? I basically tripled my day rate.
Oh, fuck yeah.
But it was like, nah. So
I might get hot coffee spilled on me up my fucking day rate.
Yeah.
You're mine now.
Yeah, that's you know, if the worst that they've got is hot coffee, oh my God! You know what? That's just barely above getting your feelings hurt. You know, I mean, barely above getting your feelings hurt. So basically, I just separated the two of them and then cleaned up the mess at the end of the show.
It's a good movie. It's creepy as fuck.
It's a great